So yesterday, a student of mine, Rich, asked me a question that I think you might be able to relate to. He said, Danny, with the thousands of YouTube videos out there, how do I know which one is truly going to improve my strike with my irons and my drive and get me hit a bit more accurately? Because they all promise to get rid of my slice, they all promise to improve my contact, but how do I know which one is actually going to do it? It's a great question, isn't it? So I said to him, really simply, there are two things I work on day in, day out with my students that are the primary causes of all poor contact and direction. In this video, I want to show you what they are, because if you work on these, and only these for the time being, it will save you potentially thousands of hours worth of practice and trolling the internet to try and find the tip that's going to work for you, right? Can't wait to share with you. Before I do that, if you're new to the channel, it's one of your first lessons of mine, please consider subscribing. I release videos just like this one every single week to try and help you improve your game. Plus, you never have to remember a thing. Everything we do here, I'll put into a free download or practice guide in that description box below. So my goal for you in this lesson is to give you something that is going to make the biggest improvement to your game with the least amount of work, the least amount of effort. We'll start with the irons and we'll work to the driver. So you, just like all the best players in the world, have an arc to your golf swing. The question is where is the bottom of the arc? And that's super, super important. Because when you create an arc like this, there is always going to be a bottom to the arc somewhere, right? And that bottom is directly underneath, or should be directly underneath where your lead shoulder is here. So the best players, they bottom out their golf swing, their arc, right opposite their lead heel, like this. Every single time, in fact, within about half an inch. What I see, and this is pretty much between handicaps, is this. If you're a 5 handicap, 10, 15, 20, 25, the worse a player you are, the more inconsistent you bottom it out. So sometimes the high handicap players are bottoming the club out here, sometimes it's here, but it's unbelievably inconsistent. My job for you here in this video is to give you a way to bottom out your club in the same spot time and time again. Because if you do that, look, the data shows us, you will hugely improve as a golfer. Your handicaps will start to flood down because your ball striking will massively improve. So if you came to see me on the lesson team, the first place I'm going to look at your golf swing, if you are struggling, you're struggling with contact, direction, distance, the first place I'm going to look is at the moment of impact, where is your pelvis? Because with great players, it's always pretty much in the same spot. This pelvis at the moment of impact is directly over the lead heel. Why? Because this gives them a better opportunity, look, to bottom out the club where that lead heel is, right? If the further the pelvis is away from that, the harder it is to do that. Then the problem is, what happens with players is when the pelvis is in the wrong place and they start fatting it and thinning it, they know they're supposed to strike the ball. So what they do is they move their chest over like this to strike the ball. But when you do that, you strike it, but now you cut across the golf ball. Makes sense? So in theory, what you've done is, look, you've moved your pelvis further away, and now you're doing this. We don't want that. It becomes an unfunctional swing. So how then can we work together to try and help you get your pelvis in the same spot every single time? Well, let me give you a couple of drills that have really worked for my students. The first exercise is this. Now, a lot of people, when they're trying to strike the ball better, they focus on impact. They're trying to almost try and get it right around here. It's way too late. I never really focus on impact with players. I focus on what creates great impact, which is generally somewhere early in the backswing or very, very up here in the backswing, but never down here. It's way too late. So we want to get that pelvis forward. So I've just got a yoga wedge here. You don't need one. You can use fields. I didn't use this with a recent student of mine, Rich, and it worked a treat. But so just for a great visual. This yoga wedge is angled this way. And what it's doing is this. By me angling here, it's giving me a feeling of pushing away from the target. So I'm pushing this way, and that's a way of getting my pelvis forward. This is what you'll see with great players, is how they get forward. But how I'm getting forward and when I get forward is a lot earlier than most people realize. So what I got Rich to do is this. I got him to make some swings, and as he's swinging back here, I got him to about, when he got to about halfway, push, push, push. And as he's pushing, it's not just pushing his pelvis forward, he's actually pushing his right pocket towards the target, which is also helping you make a bigger turn. If you're at the top of your golf swing, your pelvis is more over your lead heel, you now have a great opportunity to just simply just come back down to the golf ball and land the club in the correct spot. I just don't see this with players. I see players swinging very carefully all the way up to the top. Now the problem is, in half a second, they've got to somehow get that pelvis forward. No one ever does. They turn from here, they come over the top, they start swiping it, they lunge their torso to try and get to the golf ball. They do a whole host of things just to try and strike that golf ball. This drill, just make some swings, push, push. If you're indoors, grab a club like this, just put it over your shoulders. As I'm turning here, there. So as I finish, look at this, I'm turning, and just before as I'm completing my swing, I push back towards the target. Anything like this to get that pelvis over forward and early is going to give you the best chance of making sure the bottom of your swing is opposite your lead heel, right? So let's have a look at this in action. So I get myself set here, and all I'm doing here is this, is I feel the pressure going into my trail foot here, but then I'm pushing back forward, so I'm next, and I'm much further forward to strike that ball. Let's have a look at this. So you'll notice here, look at this there, look. 3.8 inches after the golf ball. That is where we want to be. Now, that's a great exercise. That's the first place I will look. The second thing I will do, I love this one because it's a wonderful feeling, but it also helps the player at distance, is I will just get a stick holder like this. And again, we said, look, if you want to get that bottom of the swing in the right spot every time, you've got to make sure your pelvis is forward and forward early. So I get myself set here, get the stick just going up the center of my spine. And what I'm going to do here is, as I make a swing, I'm going to get my trail pocket here. When it gets to the top, I am forward. Can you see this? Because I'm forward now, all I'm going to do is just simply just move back to the golf ball, and look, I'm in a great place now, look, to strike that ground in the same spot every single time. What I see with a lot of players here is they're simply, this would happen to Rich earlier, he was simply, there's no movement here, he's not in a spot where he's got any opportunity of one, generating any power, but two, striking that ball consistently. He's going to have to slide so excessively in half a second, it's so unlikely to happen, yeah? So just taking that pocket, sliding it around this side gives me great feedback. I can just let the club free flow on the way through. It's simple as that. And again, what I love about this one, it's such a great feel you can take straight to the golf course. So I get myself set here, and as I'm making a swing, I'm just gonna picture where that trail pocket is and where the center of my pelvis is relative to my stance. Get it forward and give it a crack. Let's have a look at this. So 4.8 inches after the golf ball. Now, what's interesting there is this, and this is a cool one. So you'll see here, I'm after the golf ball here, which is great, but my swing direction, my swing circle, has actually gone a little bit left of target. Now, this could be a bit of a problem, because me trying to demonstrate hitting the ground after the golf ball for you, I cheated that a little bit, and this is what I see with amateur golfers. It's worth discussing. I've tried to kind of there show you that I can strike the ground after the golf ball, but I've done it a little bit with my chest, and I've come across the line of the golf ball here. If I'm not careful, this could become a bit unfunctional. I see with a lot of players. So what they tend to do is they do all this great stuff here, but what they do is they then try to get the bottom of the swing after the golf ball, but what they're doing is the center of the chest is working down and across. Yes, it can get the bottom of the swing after, but what it then does is it gets you cutting across the ball. So you'll see this often if you're slicing it. So what I really need to make sure of here is this. I don't get the bottom of the swing with my chest. What I do is I keep my chest and my head in the middle of my stance. I don't want that kind of going forward. And it's my pelvis that is the key factor here of me striking that ground where I need to strike it, not me cheating that system here. Super, super important. So if I was fixing this, I would first of all, and this is really important, something you can check, it's going to help us with the driver in a second, I would check setup. Make sure when you're setting up here that your eyes, your shoulders, your forearms, they're all square, right? Because watch this. If you have an intention to strike that ground after the golf ball and you start to do this, your eyes start to move, and watch what happens to the pelvis. That starts to go backwards. So yes, we can strike the ground now, but now we have what's called an unfunctional motion where we're going to create those horrible slice shots. I don't want to be striking the ground in the correct spot with a big slice. I want everything square. Look, and as I move this back to square, that moves my pelvis back in position. Now I'm in a place, look, to strike the ground when I want to strike it, but also on the correct line. So let's take a look at this. What I'm going to do now is just exactly what we've just done, but I'm going to make sure I'm set up in a place that gets my swing circle more down the line, not coming across the ball, and still getting a beautiful low point. And there we go. Look. So you see here, look, my swing circle's now neutralized to a 0, but I've still got the low point after the golf ball. I haven't cheated it. Really, really important. Now, before we move to driver, I also love to give my students rhythm to feel this. Again, we want the pelvis forward. We can't trying to get the perfect impact position just adds tension to us. So we do all the work in the backswing, really, right? So getting a bag of shopping or something heavy, if you're not new to my channel, you've seen something like this before, but it's super, super valuable. Grab something heavy like a bag of shopping and just start swinging that momentum. As you do this, your pelvis and your body will start to react to the weight. When most people are doing, they're often trying to control the club too much, and they tend to do it trying to be too careful. And when you do this, you have these movements that look a little bit like this, where we're all over here, and then we move all over here. That's when it looks cumbersome, doesn't look very effortless. But notice what my body does very naturally to this. My pelvis is moving forward really early, and then I swing. You see this? So my pelvis is reacting to the weight of the bag. How can you put this into a golf swing? Well, it's incredibly straightforward, right? So if you feel that weight, you can just take the golf club, start swinging it. As I'm swinging, look, can you see how my pelvis is reacting to where that club's going? As the momentum goes away, my body reacts by going early, which again gives me the best opportunity to strike where? There. If I try to be too careful, and like this, now we're in trouble. I've lost the whole connection, the whole rhythm. But if I just swing, I'm really naturally getting that pelvis working correctly, look, to strike that line, or create the bottom of the swing in the correct place every time. So, great thing to work on. Same thing, right? I love that one. So with my students, with the driver, very, very similar. I would say here, most of the problems I see, the same drills apply to driver, exactly. But most of the problems I see with driver, if you're struggling, is this swing direction, it's never in the right place. So I fix that always first. And you can always tell if you've got massive curvature on your golf shots, that's the place to look first. So what I do here is this. When the ball's further forward, the bottom of the swing's not changing at all. I'm just going to move this bag out of the way so this camera can see it. The ball's not changing at all. The low putt's not changing, just the ball position. But when the ball position starts to get further and further forward in our stance, what we then tend to do is we tend to go and subtly reach it. And I said earlier, when you start to subtly reach it, your eye line starts to move, your shoulders start to move, and this pelvis starts to move backwards. So we start to move into a place where we're starting to come across the line of the golf ball. And when we do this, without changing very much, watch what happens. We start to create, just naturally look, these big slices, these big bends on the shot. And we want to try, and we try to kind of think, oh, how do I get rid of that big slice? Well, and we try all these complicated things when you don't really need to. You assess your setup first. That's always I'm looking for, because as I said, look, this is a slice. Now we're lining things up. We're lining the circle up here, look. Right, now the circle's in a better spot. Here, here, not here. Now we've got a chance to get into a great impact position. From here, it's just choose which one of those kind of drills resonates with you. For Rich, it was super simple. He loved the feeling of pushing away early because it pushed his trail hip back, which allowed him to turn and create a much bigger motion. So not only did he get his bottom of the swing better, so the strike was better, he added more distance too, right? And those, they all will, right? So take one of them, take the feeling of it, keep it unbelievably simple. Make sure primarily, please, these two things, get set up. None of this works without a wonderful setup. Set yourself up here, point down here. This is a great way of getting everything level. I love to stand as a statue here. Shoulders flat, forearms flat, come straight down here. And if need be, push your weight forward like this to reach the ball. Don't go over like this. This keeps everything, look at how soft that trail arm is inside my body. That's pretty much it. If you get great setup, you really are almost there. You're such a big part of the game, okay? A little bit fadey, but as you can see, pretty consistent. So, do me a favor. Stop wasting hours and hours trying this, that, and the other. Work on controlling the bottom of your swing. It is the #1 factor that distinguishes great players from everybody else. This is a great starting point. Look, I'd love to help you personally with this. I'm going to start running over the next few weeks kind of sessions on DannyMaude.com. We're going to start going live every week, working with players. Send in your swings, do whatever, right? I'm super, super excited to help with this because there are more factors to this, but this is where you start, all right? Look, if you know somebody else who's struggling with this part of their game, please share this video. It's the place I would start with every golfer who's wanting to get better. It really, really is. If you want to know how to add distance to your driving, once you've got this contact, this video is a belter. There's only 4 ways to add distance. 2 of them will lose your accuracy. These 2 will gain you accuracy without too much loss of distance. It's super, super valuable. Of course, if you're new to the channel, press that subscribe button and the bell. And remember, there's a free practice plan in the description box below. But until next week, have a wonderful golfing week.